All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. We're just a bunch of Kiss fans and we talk Kiss. So come along for the ride, you've got nothing to lose.
All right, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. We're back on our usual Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific time slot. I've got Marcus Almighty and his internet. Yes, he's not lagging so far. Andrew Scambati's back. And
Cat
the
boy.
69th Blizzard, Catboy. All right, Catboy.
Hello.
Let's go to the elder, the voice of reason. All right, so we've got a bunch of topics this week. I want to just raise my glass to everyone in Vegas who's there for the Kiss Cruise landed on land Vegas experience. I hope you guys have a great time tonight. I believe the live stream for the pre-party hosted by Kiss Army Spain is going to be kicking off shortly with a tribute to Ace Frehley and other musical activities and entertainment. You know what, guys? Have a great show. Can't wait to see some live material out of it. I've already been watching some of the podcast Rock City coverage. Thank you, Joe Polo. Again, this should generate an awful lot of content. 3 sides. You've got 2 panels that you're doing. We want some good quality material after the fact, so hope you're able to provide. And again, hope everyone has a fantastic time there. For those of us who've been left behind, meanwhile, in the other room, that's us. We're not there. So before we get into today's news and topics, which are just an assortment to catch up on from the message board, Mark, you've got some news with your album, don't you?
Yes, I just released my 10th studio album, if you can believe that, called The Dark Days of Yesterday. It is a bit darker lyrically than my normal stuff, but Project Gemini musically, lots of melodic guitars and vocals, double leads and stuff like that. So all the stuff that you come to expect. And for you US and UK people, it's in Canadian dollars. So of course, that makes it extra special for you. And of course, since I now have a guy within the United States that sends out my CDs and my vinyl now, then the shipping is even cheaper for you guys if you buy. So there you go. So bandcamp.com, Project Gemini. There's only one Project Gemini there. So go to that and you'll see my record there. And there's a CD available to order and digital, and the vinyl will be coming probably in January. So keep that in mind.
I've already downloaded my copy from LimeWire, so thank you very much. And it ruined my computer, so thank you so much.
I thought Catboy was a Napster guy.
Yes.
All right, so I want to thank everyone who's here joining us live on the stream today. I guess some of the big news this week goes to, what was it, Tuesday? You released, how many films is this now?
Tuesday, isn't it? Well, here's the thing. I'm not going to talk about any of the previous ones because this is so much different than all of the previous ones. So, in my opinion, this is the first one of its kind, and this is the first film. So, Tokyo 2, it came out on Tuesday, isn't it? And it's come out to a great success. And thank you everyone that's watched it, shared it, and commented. It's been really awesome. Thank you so much.
It's very good. I enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
I'm curious about one thing in particular. You did a cinema live.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not paying attention. I'm trying to send the link to somebody because they wanted to tune in to watch. So I'm like, let me send this link out so that we could have another person.
Once Andrew gets his Tinder stuff out of the way, we'll get back to it.
Okay, all right, I'm done. All right, so yeah,
you're done grinding.
It came out for everybody on Tuesday, and then we had a world premiere cinema showing in New Jersey this past Saturday at Smond Castle Cinemas in Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey, and it was awesome.
So how's the reaction been? I mean, you've had quite a few of these over the years, and obviously apples and oranges, this is unto itself. It's unlike anything you've ever done before. We did a whole episode with you, or I did.
Yeah, go watch that one.
About it. Go watch that for all the background information about it. But how's the reaction been? Because it's very difficult as a creator. You pour your heart and soul into a project for so long, and you become somewhat blinded by it, and then you unleash it on the public. How's that met expectations or lived up to expectations? What's your take on all that?
Yeah, it's surpassed expectations. It really, really has. The response has been incredible. Everybody has had something great to say about it. The one thing that I didn't really understand, or I never even thought that this would happen, was people says it makes them feel like they were young again. Like people watching, they go, I felt like I was 10 years old again watching Kiss on HBO, or I felt like I was 15 going to the Kiss Expos. So I never really thought that this film was going to pull that kind of reaction out of someone. But to hear the comments and to hear what the fans had to say has been awesome. And I've been totally floored by it. So it's over 10,000 views now. So this is going to be something that that's going to be online for a long time. And the fact that so many people have watched it, liked it, commented on it, it's been amazing. I couldn't even keep up with everything. So I'm so excited, and I'm so glad it's finally out there for everybody to enjoy.
Yeah, I was surprised. Eddie Trunk mentioned it on his show, and it also made it onto some other media as well. I mean, it's always very cool as a creator when someone mentions your stuff to a much larger audience than any of our podcasts get. That must have been very kind of rewarding.
It was cool. I didn't even know that Keith Roth from Ozzy's Boneyard was going to be there. He was actually a guest of somebody's. And he walked in and was like, hey, I used to run the show called the Electric Ballroom. And I was like, no way. Like, I used to grow up listening to Electric Ballroom on 95.9 The Rat in New Jersey. So to have him there was so cool, because he was someone that I was like, man, I recognize this voice. So he enjoyed it. And it was just, the coolest thing about the screening that happened over the weekend was a lot of the people that were there were people that used to go to all the old Kiss conventions back in the 90s and early 2000s. And some of those people hadn't been in the same room for a decade or more, maybe. So it was so much like a family reunion. And I saw people I hadn't seen in a long time. And you know what? And the unfortunate part about this is I may never see them again. And that's at no fault of mine or theirs. It's just kind of how life, happens. But I got to tell you, sitting there and seeing the work on the screen was incredible. I hate calling it my work because, it couldn't have done it without all the people that I interviewed, all the contributors. Julian, you helped me out with this. So many people helped me out with this, so I couldn't have done it, myself. So even though it says like created by me, and I said this on Saturday, I really mean it, that so many people made this happen. So I'm so excited, and everything's been so great. And what's even cooler now is, I guess 2 people didn't show up to the screening, and then I guess 2 other people didn't take their posters. So I have 5 total posters left. So I signed them, and I will give them away to 5 lucky people. But there's a catch, because I'm going to mail them out to you. So like, share, comment the YouTube link, and help me get to 25,000 views. And then I'm going to pick 5 people at random to give the poster away to.
Nice.
Cool.
Mark, you had something that you wanted to chime in on.
Oh, I was just going to say that, how you were saying that you were surprised by people's reactions, saying that it made them feel young again. For some people, it might be the fact that was sort of their, Ed Sullivan moment, watching that thing on HBO when it first came out. So maybe that's why they kind of had that feeling to it, because watching your documentaries, there are quite a few people said that the first time they seen some Kiss live footage on video was that actual screening of it there. So of course, maybe that brings back fond memories. So good for you. I'm glad it went well for you.
Yeah, I interviewed a lot of people who, even like John Humphrey from Seether, he had mentioned that Live in Japan on HBO, that is what made him a Kiss fan. Yeah. And even Alex Michael from Shameless was he had seen that on TV, that made him a Kiss fan. So to have those people in there and have those people share their memories of it was so cool. And it's so much bigger than just a history lesson, because I didn't want it to just be a history lesson, because who cares about that? I wanted it to be an experience, and I wanted people to remember what it was like to see Kiss live, or what it was like to get a bootleg for the first time, or see stuff at the conventions. And one of the coolest things too is Dave Stryker, who used to do Kiss Vision. He gave me some footage from the very first Kiss convention, which was in Boston, Massachusetts, in 1987. So that's the first time that a lot of people have seen that. So to share that with other fans to remember a time where we could go to Kiss conventions. That was cool to me. This is so much bigger than just Kiss going to Japan. And I know some people had questions like, well, is it just a visualization of any of these Japanese books, or is this just taken from someplace else or anything like that? That really wasn't the case at all, because the story in itself was how this live album was created and how it got to you. So essentially, it was how Tokyo came to you, and that's where the name of the film came from.
Yeah. Well, the great thing that I appreciated you did is when you showed the left-right channel, like this is the version that was on Alive 2, this is the version that was done, and you did the comparison, and it really, opened a lot of people's eyes, I think, to what was on album and what wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely an argument or a school of thought that people say, well, hey, he says this word a little bit different here, or maybe he says this word a little bit different there. So that is possible, but when you match them up side by side, and Mark, this, you're a musician, there was no click tracks available in 1977. So for it to match up just like that, a lot of it was borrowed and used from the sources. It was.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you 100%.
So,
all right, before we bore Ken to death, I want to ask,
you're not boring me.
What's some of your favorite comments that you've received? I mean, I always try and make it a policy not to read reviews for my stuff, because I just don't want to know in many cases. Do you read reviews, and what are some that have jumped out at you?
Okay, I always read the comments, basically, and I don't read them as an ego gratification thing or anything like that. Sometimes there's just really, really funny stuff in the comments. There was one comment a couple of years ago where somebody, I matched up together all the different versions of the video, whether it was the actual music video or it was like the solid gold stuff, and someone commented, and he was like, man, you got a lot of time on your hands. I was like, hey, man, I made this while I was waiting for my dinner. And he was like, that's racist slave bullshit, bro. Who's making you dinner? And I was like, well, when the chicken has to bake in the oven, the oven is preparing my dinner for me. So I'm just wondering. So anyway, so you find little nuggets of just funny stuff. So one of the funniest comments was someone, I'm going to read this verbatim. And for those of you who have seen the movie, you'll know what part I'm talking about. Somebody says, Bob Ezrin wasn't brought in again for Destroyer. That was the first Kiss album he produced. Gene's commentary is about the elder. Please get it right. And I had to remind him that the commentary was actually for Rock and Roll Over, because early conversations were that Kiss was going to bring back, Bob Ezrin for Rock and Roll Over, and then they ended up going with Eddie Kramer. But there's most of the comments have been positive. So there's only been a handful of funny ones, and I always kind of go back to I don't want to argue with these people, but I'm always like, hey man, thanks for the view. You were so angry, then you commented and you gave me the view. So that's really what it's about. So
yes, as long as they click play, that's really
just push play.
Yeah. It's what matters. And if you want to fall asleep to deep, terse history only, listen to one of my special podcasts, because I guarantee I cure insomnia. I will cure insomnia. I'm like the Astrum of Kiss. I don't know if anyone listens to Astrum, the YouTube channel. Check it out. It's very good to fall asleep to. All right. Enough of From Tokyo to You. Let's get into some board topics. I guess
I have a board topic that we can talk about.
All right, well, hold it. Let's get this one out of the way and see if we have any audience left afterwards.
Oh no!
Yeah, this D squared stuff dropped. I don't know if it was this week or whether but at least they're doing triple XL. Distressed. I'm distressed just looking at the fucking prices here. $855 for a D2 sweatshirt, and it's D squared with another 2 at the end. I thought squared automatically meant to the second power.
You know what?
Holy crap.
You know what's scary about this though is that there's going to be somebody who's going to buy this. That's the thing I find most scary about it, is that somebody actually thinks that this is worth dropping that much money for it. I don't get it. I mean, people complain about it, but if you buy it, they're going to keep selling it. Like, come on.
Yeah. Again, I'm not gonna ever, make comments about how people spend their money because I do
Mhm.
stupid things
Mm.
with mine or things that other people would consider stupid. But I see 855, and that's more than I spent buying an Epiphone Les Paul.
Yeah,
So
you know
again,
what I mean? This is
it's about priorities. I mean, that's distressed. You can barely see half of it. Same design
Yeah.
for the sleeveless, which is 585.
The Kiss logo on the first one sort of resembles the Kiss logo on Paul's original Kiss T-shirt.
The
Kinda.
rhinestone, it kind of riffs off that, I guess, or rips off that. But I guess anything's fair when you spent 300 million on a brand. You better start trying to
I
make it
hope
back
those
with
are print on demand.
$585 t-shirts.
Mm.
So this thing, I mean, Kiss Alive tour. I mean, I haven't fact checked those dates yet to see if they're correct on the back, but
Yeah.
$560 for a t-shirt. I mean,
bet you
even
they're not correct.
Kanye ain't trying that shit. And then there's that.
Oh.
And
Do you
I
really
just,
want to see male Kiss fans in that? Because I don't.
I'm not, and I'm deliberately not
Tidy
putting up the
blackies,
models
not tidy whiteys.
or the videos. Is there enough material in there to be justifying that sort of, fishnet knickers for men?
Well, I mean, at least they're black, so they don't show skid marks. So there you go.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
For that T-shirt, you could buy.
Which one are you buying, Ken?
You could buy 2 Kiss box sets for that price. Vinyl box sets for the price of that one T-shirt. So it's just I have no words. I wouldn't buy that anyway, even if it was $40. It's not just what I find pleasing.
And you know me, I'm a T-shirt guy. I've been saying this on the podcast all the time. I try to buy at least one T-shirt from every album. Okay, I got Animalized, Unmasked. I got a T-shirt from every album. But that is just ridiculous. I mean, being somebody who's an independent artist myself, musician, when I always feel guilty when I feel I'm charging a little too much or something, and I don't think that I charge a lot for anything that I have. So, I mean, I think there's got to be also some sort of logic to this as well. I mean, people are spending hard-earned money on this. You don't want to take advantage of them either. And I'll just leave it at that.
Well, we're talking about it, and we're giving them free advertising to 33 live viewers right now.
If you want to get it, go and buy it.
All right, moving on from that rapidly.
Yes, thank
Gene
God.
Simmons was back in action, and this is what it's all about to me now. I have said that Ace was the only one out there on the road carrying the banner for Kiss, and Ace is gone. I'll admit this, I'm having a real difficult time with Ace not being here, and it's made life very difficult for me. Professionally, obviously, with a book in the pipeline, but I'm having difficulty just getting over the passing of an original member. But Gene got back out there for what was it, the Loud and Ride charity event, or Love and Ride, with his solo band, and then Tommy and Eric came on to do encores with him. And I've got to say, that was refreshing. It was the same old shit from Gene. It was the same old shtick from Gene. Get people up on this song, get people, and I'm just like, and then I was like, no, I forget it. Gene, an original member of Kiss, is up there playing the songs that I love, and I love Ace of Spades and House of Pain, so stop bitching about it, just because I don't think they fit. He's doing Charisma, he's doing Deuce, straight out of the gate, he's doing Deuce. So I'm happy. Have any of you had the chance to check it out? I'm going to start I'll start with Andrew, because he hasn't talked enough today.
Yeah, I saw it. I actually, it was funny because when Gene started doing these shows earlier in the year, I was like, man, he's doing this. Like, it's like, I didn't think it was good. And then I actually saw the show, and I had a great time. I really, really had a great time. No, I'm not Vegas bound this weekend. Sorry. But so it was cool to see him back out there, and I really hope to see him out there again. I think perhaps maybe his last go around was met with lukewarm reactions, for several reasons. But I think there's kind of a reinvigorated spirit in seeing an original member of Kiss playing these songs. So I would like to see him out there again. And he still looks like he's having fun on stage. So I thought it was cool. Gene never disappoints as far as music goes. So I enjoyed it, and I'll go see that any day of the week.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the person who videoed that set and shared it on
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Again, for all of us who aren't able to do this, Gene's canceled 2 dates in California for Ken and me. He had a casino date
Again.
previously scheduled, and he shit canned it. And then there was one down in Riverside several years ago
Maybe next
that he
year.
also got rid of. You know, take the opportunity to go see your heroes while they are here, because that music, you know, goes away very rapidly. Ken, thoughts on I'll get to you last, Mark, as you've already spoken.
Yeah.
Oh, I did, eh? Okay.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, I watched it. I watched the whole thing. It was good. I mean, yeah, it was the same Gene Simmons kind of set list and stuff, and where he brings people up on stage and that sort of thing. Not as cringy as some of the other ones were earlier in the year, but it was still good. Hear the Kiss music live sung by Gene, you know, which is really good. A lot of the classics, of course. I don't think you need the Van Halen and the Ace of Spades, Motorhead stuff, but still, it was okay. I got Charisma and all that stuff. And then when they did, was it Let Me Go? Rock and Roll?
Let me go rock and roll. Calling
It
Ducks
was
Love
great.
Rock and
That
Roll
was
all
great.
night.
Yeah, that was great. I thoroughly enjoyed that. So, yeah, it was nice having him there, and then Tommy, you know, was totally spot on, and Eric Singer, they haven't lost a step at all. So I think they've been obviously practicing still and probably preparing for this Kiss, ship sunk in Vegas. So.
Yeah, I think Eric Singer could roll out of bed and play the songs, and he really seemed to be unrestrained. Let Me Go Rock and Roll,
True.
another one of my favorites live. He just seemed to be the Eric of old playing. All right, Mark, what was
It's
your
free.
thought of this stream?
Well, I mean, I was pretty critical of some of Gene's stuff before, because I still found that I think he's having trouble realizing that he's in his 70s, and these lines that he thought was really hot and sexy when
He's
he was younger
76,
don't work
baby.
when you're 70,
You don't care.
So yeah, I know, but it just seems really creepy sometimes when he does it. So
Yeah.
but the thing is, I found I enjoyed this performance. I thought it was really good. I thought that the band was in good form. I thought he was in good voice. I'm still never going to get behind this whole idea of bringing up a bunch of fans up there who sing in the key of J half the time, singing these songs with him. You know, so that's not what I'm paying for. This is a festival thing. Maybe it was free, so that argument doesn't really sit well with it. But you know, I'm not paying to go see them. I want to see Gene Simmons' band. Okay, that's who I want to go see, not them. Okay.
Well, what if he called you on stage? Wouldn't you?
Nobody.
Mark.
I wouldn't go
take
up
your
because
time.
nobody wants. Yeah, they were
Check the
vets.
comments,
Okay,
Mark.
great. Yes, I see. They were vets, Mark. Okay, great. So they were vets. So what? So because they can't sing, then they're vets. They have to go up. I mean, come on. So I understand that he supports the vets and all that stuff. So that's fine, and I have nothing against that. Believe me, my parents my parents and my grandparents, they were all involved in the war as well. Okay. So I understand where that comes from, but I'm there to see Gene Simmons. I understand. Maybe he wanted to make a special moment for them. If that's the case, then that's different. I understand that. Then if he wanted them beforehand, said, "Listen, I want to bring up some of the vets," then great. That's a different story, I think. But he has a tendency of doing this at all his live shows. So I didn't grasp that difference in this situation. So, but I thought it was good overall. I thought the show was good. I thought he played good. I thought it was humorous though that the guy who was filming zoomed in right away at Shannon and Sophie when he noticed that they were side stage, and he kind of like went and zoomed in on them. But yeah, and Nick he's a tall boy, man. Holy smokes! When he zoomed in on him, there it was like the guy's like a tree, like an oak tree. He's so tall. But yeah, they did a great job. I think that the band was good. I'm curious though. This is a different people in the band now, isn't it, than prior Gene Simmons?
I can't keep.
band?
I don't even bother trying to keep track of these guys anymore. So yeah,
It was Brian Tichy. It was the same lineup that played the last Gene Simmons
Oh,
tour.
okay. Because I didn't
So
recognize
Brian
one of the
Tichy on
guys.
drums, Brian Tichy on drums, and I can't remember who's on guitar. I can't remember, but
yeah, Brian Tichy, great drummer, by the way. Also a talented musician all around. So yeah, Mark, it's a charity event, but yes, he does bring
Okay.
people up at all the shows. I find it a bit tiresome, but when it's a charity component, that's cool.
That's
Whatever.
different. Yeah.
I just kind of roll my eyes and enjoy the songs that I'm going to enjoy. Again, he did Deuce, Shout It Out Loud, Charisma, Are You Ready? Ace of Spades, House of Pain, I Love It Loud, Cold Gin, Let Me Go, Rock and Roll, Calling Dr. Love, and Rock and Roll All Night. You know what? I'd pay to go see that set any day of the week.
listen, we would complain if Kiss played that
especially now.
set. Yeah, we would
Yeah,
complain if
now.
Kiss played.
You know, now Ace Frehley is gone. Is anyone ever going to complain about a set list again? I mean, to go and hear the music still being performed by the guys who wrote it, or being honored with Bruce Kulick and his group when they do the limited stuff that they do, you know, paying homage to the era. You know, anyone going to get pissed off that Todd Kearns is singing?
God,
and it's not
just wait
Paul
till this
Stanley?
weekend's over. Just wait till this weekend's over.
Oh, these are Kiss people you're talking about. They're going to be
This
complaining.
weekend,
You wait.
no.
Yeah, no, I don't think they are going to be complaining. I think there is going to be, Matt Porter would say, nothing but love at this Vegas event for all of the live performances, because I think people have been, you know, jonesing since December 2023 to get back together, to get back and celebrate Electric Communion with the music that we love. And the cup of abundance is going to overflow. There's 2 tribute bands. Kiss Nation. That's is that Billy Mays? Get me right, please.
Yeah, that is correct. That's Billy May.
Because I don't keep track on tribute bands other than Jonathan's. And then you got Mr. Speed. Then you got Mr. Speed as well. So you've got 2 tribute bands doing multiple sets. You've got Bruce.
I played in
Bruce's
both bands too.
Yeah.
Seriously.
You didn't play in Jonathan's band, so screw you.
Wish I would have.
Which they did a tribute to Ace Frehley, a farewell Frehley gig last Sunday night, and I went and the bartender gave me a very, very generous Lemmy. Oh boy, that was generous. But they had Will Carroll from Death Angel up there on drums for some of the songs, and holy crap, did he slam the drums. But getting back to what I was saying, you know, people want to get together as Kiss fans. You're a part of your tribe. You're listening to bands play that music. So I think coming out of Vegas, there's going to be a lot more positivity than the build up to Vegas, and I think it's going to be mostly a result of the reality check that we've had as fans of one of the original members, you know, departing. Mark,
I hope you're right,
or Andrew. Yeah,
I hope you're right. I really do. I really, really hope you're right, because I remember the last couple of Kiss cruises where people were disappointed with song selection and performers, and you know, there were people that were disappointed in certain things. So I hope that there is an overwhelming positive reaction to that. I do think some of the band choices is kind of silly, but listen, the people there are going to have a good time, and I would probably have a different opinion if I was there. But you know, here's the thing. I really hope that people, you know, enjoy it. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I will hold up my hand, and I will admit that when I got off Kiss Cruise 8, I'm like, I'm never doing this again. I hated that. I really did not enjoy myself. But now looking back, now that it's over, in light of Ace passing, I'm reappraising that, because I was there for his last performance with Gene and Paul. That's a hell of a reality check to come out of that saying that sucked, to going and like, wow, that was actually the last time he played with Gene and Paul on that Sail Away show. And then me getting pissed off downstairs when Kiss did their set because Tommy was doing Shock Me, and me sitting down and going, you know, I did actually, 100%, you know, but then, you know, you had Ace doing Torpedo Girl, Two Sides of the Coin, Dark Light. All of a sudden, it makes sense years later that what I had on Kiss Cruise 8 was greater than it seemed at the time. But it took Ace passing away for me to realize that. So live in the now.
Well, can I just say one thing? I mean, I'm just saying that, and I'm really convinced that the main reason why I think people are going to be in good spirits is because, like you said, getting together and meeting old friends is always a great thing to do, and people are in good spirits when that happens, of course. But I mean, this whole thing with the set list, I'm never surprised with that, because even when Chris Squire died of Yes, and they did that tour with Billy Sherwood, who replaced him on bass, people still, were complaining. I mean, the man passed away and they're still complaining about Settler. So this is nothing new, whether it's Kiss or Yes or who knows, Foreigner or God knows who else. People are always going to complain about something. But you're right, though. I mean, people should take a different approach at it sometimes and just realize what they're seeing and what they may not see in a few years' time.
To me, it's a travesty that what Julian saw was, Ace's last performance with Gene and Paul. There should have been another one after that on the end of the road. It should have been on that last couple of shows in New York. I think they really blew it. They really blew it. It's too bad. I feel sorry for the fans. I feel sorry for Gene and Paul, because they're probably thinking now like we were freaking assholes, which could have been the case. So I don't know the whole story, but you could have made it if you really wanted to. You could have made it happen.
Didn't Ace
I
want
mean,
2 million?
they were telling us for the last 30 years.
Still could have
about
made it
this
happen,
show.
Mark.
The first convention T-shirt, what did it say on the back? "Fuck you, you blew it." So
You're right.
It's
You're
done.
right.
That's life. Choices are made. Don't make your invitations through social media. If you actually have a legitimate invitation to someone to do something, you have to make it personal. You have to make it. You have to take into account the reality of perhaps their side of the coin. And why would Ace or Peter have wanted to done a solid to Gene and Paul? Why would they?
After
It's
all
business.
that, yeah.
Why couldn't Gene and Paul reach out with a olive branch and say, we're not gonna take advantage of you? But who knows? Again, that's the complexity of being in a band. There's 4 guys, there's 4 agendas, there's 4 perceptions of
Opinions,
ills done historically. There's 4 perceptions of how things should be done, and there's basically 1 manager. So again, no one ever wins, and everything is easy in hindsight. It ain't happening. It ain't ever going to happen now.
Nope.
It's over. It's done. The final reunion of the original 4 took place in a funeral parlor.
Mhm.
And that's just the reality of it. Life is cruel. You don't get do-overs. You get to do it once. Hopefully you get it as right as you can. But we're the fans. They're the band. They get to live with their decisions. All right, let's move on to nepotism. Evan and Nick are
I'm actually excited about this. I think it might be cool.
I am very curious. I've followed the music that they've been making down to them doing their Simon and Garfunkel, all the nice acoustic harmonies. Very cool. I'm very interested in what they are going to do musically. I'm going to say it because having your release date as December the 5th, right on the cusp of the Kennedy Center honors, is bumper carring to the nth degree. But as I want to read Evan's comment, and this is from the Blabbermouth article. People get hyped on the last names, but that doesn't get you anywhere. You can't network your way into making something that actually moves people. So I'm very curious to see if their new music is going to move me. I'm going to give them a fair chance. Evan's Amber Wild was given a stage for a lot of the end of the road. And what did that amount to?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. So Daddy can give you a stage, but unless you move it. And I came out of those shows where Amber Wild opened saying I was impressed by Evan. He was the only guy on that stage who deserved to be on that stage, in my opinion. He had charisma. He was able to front a band. I now am very curious about what they are going to do musically. Nick, I've sung his praises for what he did on BK3. That's really all I've got to go by. I have checked out some of his ambient music, which is cool. Would I buy it? No. Will I listen to it on YouTube for free? Hell yeah. It's perfectly fine. Ken, let's start with you. Thoughts on Simmons Stanley?
Yeah,
Body Down.
I'm like you. I kind of followed what's going on with them, and yeah, I heard the snippets of Body Down a long time ago, months ago, and that the way that song, what I heard is like, oh, sounds pretty good. It almost sounds Zeppelin-y in a way, and not saying it's going to be that way, but it just reminds me of that acoustic kind of Zeppelin to me. But yeah, all their other videos they've had out were interesting. They obviously can sing, harmonize very well, which is, I guess, important. But the thing is that I know they've written, I guess, they have a good chemistry, which is the key thing. Maybe like Gene and Paul did. And this chemistry, they were allowed to, write 10 songs. They have 10 songs for their album they wrote together. So, and who knows what type of songs. We don't really know what directions they're going to go in, but I'm definitely interested, and I'll definitely listen. And if I like it, I'll definitely support it. I'm hoping it's going to be as good as it could possibly be. If it's surprising, it's better than I think it's going to be. I'll be totally blown away by it. And I hope it is. I hope it's not just a one-off thing that just kind of fails and goes away. It's kind of a thing that can be part of kind of filling that void of what Kiss has left us with to a degree. Anyway, I'm looking forward to it.
Yes.
Mark.
Well, I've been following them for a while. I mean, as far back as when Evan started doing these videos with his dad and the acoustic, buying an acoustic guitar or getting a guitar at the store. I've been following this, and everybody knows my earliest prognoses of this before. Hey, I'm not going to bring it up again. People know what I think. And I'm telling you, I'm laughing at you guys because that's slowly inching its way, and we'll see. But they're not idiots. Look at their last names. They grew up in a totally run business centric household that has seeped into their brains and into their blood, I guarantee you. But I listened to their music, the stuff that they've been doing. I enjoyed those Instagram videos that they did when they were harmonizing and they were singing. I do like Nick Simmons' stuff that he did. Some of the ambient. I even mentioned it in one of the previous podcasts that I checked it out and was watching, and I showed even a clip, I'm pretty sure, as well. So I have nothing but love for those guys musically. I think together they're stronger than separately, in my opinion. And who knows? Maybe if there's maybe if Peter Criss has like some unknown son that we don't know about, there might be a drummer in the future as well for there. As well, there you go. You can get Andrew in there. He can fill in the cat role. And then, hey, does Monique sing? Maybe she can get in there and she could be the other person to represent the Ace Frehley side of things. And there you go. You can have a complete, path down to 2.0. And like I said, I'm not going to harp on it. People know my opinion on that. But I, in all seriousness, I think that Nick and Evan could have an interesting musical outing here. I'm very curious to hear who's doing it. More importantly, I'm curious to see who's kind of producing this stuff with them. Is it Daddy, one of the daddies doing it?
No, they got a famous producer.
Okay, so if they have another producer,
they've got a real producer.
A real producer.
Okay, good. So
now songwriting credits. That's another matter. I'm curious to see whether there's any extra Simmons or Stanleys in the mix there.
Simmons, Stanley, written by Simmons, Stanley. Okay.
All right. Stanley tweet Simmons.
Tweet Simmons there. Yeah, right. Yeah.
He just finished a project, guys. Leave him be. Do you know how long he suffered?
Make another movie.
I've got nothing up my sleeve right now. Look, I swear I got nothing up them. No.
You just said that to an interview.
Honestly, it's been literally a year of my life. I wrote the original treatment for From Tokyo to You in November of 2024. So I have nothing, up my sleeve right now. I'm just gonna take a little break. Actually, to be totally honest, I've been doing a lot of videos for a band called Flickerstick. I did their last music video, and I'm doing all of their social media videos. I actually just made one that's gonna go live. I believe it's gonna be tonight. I just finished it. So yeah, so I'm doing that, and yeah, that's really all that's on the horizon right now.
Yeah, you've done enough. Any comments on Nick and Evan?
I'm excited for it. The older I get, because I mean, listen, I ain't that young anymore. The older I get, I noticed that my musical tastes have kind of mellowed a bit. Like I'm listening to this other band called The Favors, and it's like super, super mellow music. And so I'm hoping that it's something kind of along those lines. I hope it's something like very 70s and very mellow and disco-y and harmony stuff. So I'm excited for it.
Dynasty like?
Bee Gees.
Dynasty like? Is that what you're hoping?
Yeah, maybe Dynasty. But that's the thing. It's I don't know. I just want something mellow, something that I can just kind of put on and just kind of relax to.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm a huge fan of this band. Like I said, this band called The Favors. They had this hit song that came out over the summer called "Home Sweet Home." Not the Motley Crue song, not a cover.
Not a remake.
But stuff like that, I just noticed I've just been gravitating towards. So yeah, I'm excited for it. When it comes out, I'll buy it for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, let's go into a couple of the board topics that have fallen by the wayside of. I don't have that many today because, let's start off with the Alive box set. There was a poll. I don't look at who does these because they'd never make the show if I did, probably. Is it too expensive? And is the box set suffering, the Alive box set, from being in too close proximity to the Dress to Kill box, and by Dress to Kill box having Kobo? That's a whole bunch of stuff that I just made up in one question. Andrew?
Well, here's the thing. I've known that there were going to be 2 box sets this year because it's a continuation. The story, when you're going to look at both of these box sets and read the liner notes and look at everything, it's really, really one story. So I always knew that there was an abundance of content that was going to come out. Is it a little bit silly that they've come close together? Sure, certainly I do, but I'm more excited for these box sets than I've ever been about any of the other ones. You hit the nail on the head. Kobo being included in the Dress to Kill box set. I mean, that show was just awesome. I've listened to it at least a dozen times since it came out, maybe more. Certainly more than Davenport. But I'm excited to listen to Davenport, the other Davenport show, and I'm also excited to listen to Wildwood. I mean, they released that interview, Alive at 50, back in September, where Eddie Kramer said that a lot of Alive came from Wildwood. So I'm really, really excited to listen to that Wildwood show because everything in New Jersey is better. Let's just call that what it is. So the fact that I could say that Kiss Alive was recorded in New Jersey, that's a feather that I will wear proudly.
Here's a hot take: Jersey pizza better than New York. There you go.
No. New Park Pizza in Ozone Park, New York is the best pizza.
All right, Mark.
So I think that both of those things are really, really well done. Since the last time I was on the podcast, I have acquired through a great friend who will remain nameless the books. So I do have that now. And another good dear friend who also sent over, wink, wink, the Gotham City thing for me too. Thank you, sir. I found that they're great. Those are the things I wanted. The music especially, I think, is fantastic. Kobo was great. All those things are fantastic. One of the things that I read that I thought was amazing that I didn't realize, and that's why these books are fantastic, is Eddie Kramer says in the book there that he says, keep in mind, folks, that the only concert that he recorded was Wildwood, that he didn't record the other ones. He just mixed them, right? So that's an interesting thing. I didn't realize. I thought that he was involved from the recording end of Kobo Hall, but apparently he said that he just did the New Jersey Wildwood show. That's so it says right in the book. You can, if you look in it, it says that I only recorded that.
Well, so, but here's the other thing. I knew that already because all of that footage that leaked a couple of years ago showed a bunch of footage of Neil in the recording truck, and Eddie wasn't there.
So yeah, he said that he recorded that he was in the truck for Wildwood, but he wasn't in the truck recording Kobo Haulers. He mixed those ones after the fact. Yeah. So that's neither here nor there. If they sound great.
That one had a blurb in Billboard for Electric Lady's remote truck being at the Kobo gig, but you know, Eddie knows which shows he did, so that's again,
it's in the book, Julian.
Only stuff. It's only stuff that you get out of the book, and that's the whole thing about Kistry. Everything that you build on going through billboards and cash boxes and record worlds and everything is correctable.
Yeah.
Just because it was published in 1975 doesn't mean that it's accurate, and that's what people shouldn't get upset about. Kistry is a constant evolution of reappraising and adding in new information. So,
Well,
I mean, that sort of stuff's great.
To me, that doesn't matter either way. I think it sounds great. It doesn't matter who recorded. I love how it turned out, and that's great. The pricing of it, if I'm not correct, I thought the box sets were both priced the same as far as the CDs.
No.
So I didn't recall when I saw it last time. I didn't see any big difference between the CDs from the Dress to Kill and the Alive one, unless I didn't read it properly. But in any case,
Alive has one less CD than Dress to Kill.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, but I thought I'm talking about dollar wise. I thought that the dollar price was the same.
Comparing CD prices.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dollar
that's
prices
right.
are the
Okay,
same,
all right.
but they're cheaper than Destroyer and Creatures of the Night.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that I do I do know that. Yeah. I just thought that people were talking about the dollar amounts were vastly different, but they look the same. But what you're saying is that you're getting less for one of them CD wise is what people are probably trying to say, right? So, but yeah, I think that the only flaw that they made was putting it out so close together, because like, most people were probably happy that they had the money that they had to buy the vinyl version of Dress to Kill, and then when all of a sudden a month later they have to drop the same amount again or more, they're like, oh shit, like that's a lot of money all of a sudden. So if they would have spaced it, maybe it would have went a bit better. But I think they're both worth getting. There's no question.
Yeah, the reality is that they're too close together. It's difficult. Simply, the economy is what it is, and it would have been nicer for one to be aligned closer with the 50th anniversary of it earlier in the year, but for whatever reason, most likely business, they're not. So they're clustered close together. I'm really happy that we're getting both. There's no way that Alive can follow Dress to Kill, simply because of Kobo. D2. Davenport 2, the D2 archive show is now, it's going to be interesting to hear. Same with Wildwood, because we do have bits and pieces of Wildwood from the video games in 2008 and 9. There is also a very chopped up audio recording that is most certainly from that show, because you can match up raps for what later were featured in video games. With that. So, from that perspective, it is very cool. But that extra disc of stuff that you get with the Dress to Kill one, that's over the top to me. And Kobo is one of the greatest live recordings that I think I've heard from this band in terms of any soundboard across the decades. That includes From Tokyo to You, because it's so edited. It's not the full show that Eddie Kramer mixed that we have for the Rock and Roll Party in Tokyo. I mean, Kobo to me, pound for pound, packs just an incredible punch. It's unusual. It's got the weird opening. It's got Let Me Know. It's got Two Timer. How do you top that when you're basically distilling everything down to the Alive set with Davenport 2 and Wildwood? There's just no way. What you do get out of this, to me, is that you get the full picture of the building of the recordings for Alive, and you get an additional book, an additional newspaper, and I don't care about the rest of it, to be perfectly honest. I do not care. Give me the music. Ken.
Yeah, I mean, the price for this stuff, I guess it's better than the prior CD boxes to a degree, and LPs definitely are cheaper. I would have went a different route on how they did it, maybe, because a lot of people don't seem to want all the merch, extra little goodies that are in the box, which is, it's kind of cool in a way. but I'm not going to ever do anything with them except I wore that tie last week, right? But
I almost did.
yeah, and but they could have produced maybe a less amount of the ones that were the full with all the merch and stuff in it, and then have another option with just the the LPs, the paper, the book, and that's it in a box, instead of all the and lower the price for people who can't afford. I mean, it's not cheap, and putting them both together at the same time, yeah, I'm happy that they came out, but I wasn't totally happy that they were so close together. And I actually sold some in preparation for this, because I didn't know how much it was going to be. In preparation of this, I sold a number of Kiss Vinyl out there. I've been selling Kiss Vinyl to pay for these box sets, because it's a lot of money. It's not growing on trees. Now the Kobo thing, I agree with you. I mean, that's a good one. The Kobo show just proves, it's not a myth that Kiss was that good. Other people, oh yeah, they never were. They sucked, and they were as good as the legend says. This proves it. This proves how good they were.
Yeah, musically,
musically proves how good it is. You could listen to this. You don't need to see them. You can visualize it, I guess, but just the music by itself and the performance of the great music is enough itself. And it's not it backs up the legend, I guess. And it's not a myth that they were that good, even back in 75, a year after starting their career. That's how good they were.
They were always good.
Yeah,
they had a power. Listen to Detroit 74. Listen to Winterland 75. They had it. They were firing on all cylinders in the early days when they were all for one and for all.
Yeah,
all for the glory.
They were hungry. When all of them were driven for the same goal and they hadn't made it, they were still a spectacular band. Remember the reaction to Largo 75 and listening to that performance, warts and all.
Yeah.
Again, Kobo's the same, but neither of them hold a candle to what Alive presents. Alive presents a completely different paradigm. It's a completely different thing than a fantastic live album. And that's a hill I'll die on, because Alive versus Live, I pontificated that on the members channel this week. It really is a completely different thing. A spectacular live album versus a spectacular live recording, completely different things.
Well,
and you can hear it, whether it's like Live After Death, Iron Maiden, Unleashed in the Studio, in the East, Judas Priest. Those are things that stack up.
But that's the thing. Unleashed in the East took the same kind of approach to it. They needed to, if they wanted to make a product that they thought that would sell and be around for the long haul, they needed it to be of a certain standard. And obviously Halford's vocals were cooked on those recordings, so they had to redo those anyways, right? And hence the same reason why they had to do the live stuff. The vocals were not that great for some of the spots. They were off microphones. There were screw ups left and right in certain areas that needed to be fixed. And so to make it a proper, really nice package that people would talk about for years. And we have been talking about Alive for decades now, how fantastic that is. And that was because they had to do that. If they released it the way it is now, would it have been that way? That's, who knows? But, a lot of us people who are diehards love it because it's their warts and all. But would the general public have had the same approach to it? Who knows?
There's a reason why Live Bullet, Bob Seger Silver Bullet Band, is elevated to that next level. There's a reason why Frampton Comes Alive is elevated to that next level, and Kiss Alive. There's a reason why, because these were all much more than just a King Biscuit Flower Hour. So,
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Frampton Comes Alive, because that was one of those live records that I just listened to over and over and over and over. It was like, I remember watching Behind the Music, and they were saying that they issued you Frampton Comes Alive at puberty, in 76. And that's how big it was.
Yeah. They're special. And Kiss Alive is kind of the king of special to me as a Kiss fan. So let's talk about some of the, there's 2 other box set questions from the board this week. And the next one is, will Rock and Roll Over be the next box set? And if you could have 2 box sets in 2026, like you've just received in 2025, what would they be? Or even if you could only have 1 in 2026, what would it be? Andrew?
I mean, I want Rock and Roll Over. That's just the only anniversary
yeah.
that makes sense. I mean, who knows if that's actually going to happen? But I mean, I just don't foresee an Elder box set ever happening, just because.
Well, thanks for killing my next question.
It could.
It's polarizing. It's so polarizing. You either love it or you hate it. I mean, Elder should have been packaged with Creatures, because you certainly can't package the Elder with Unmasked. Listen, we're in the minority here. Okay, we're gonna love this. We love this band. We love to hear how the songs were crafted and created, and we love the minutia. They're selling it to us. There aren't a lot of us that are here. There aren't.
Casual fans aren't buying a Destroyer box set. Casual fans aren't buying Creatures.
Yeah.
Casual fans are not buying Kiss box sets, period.
Yeah, but more fans are going to gravitate towards Dress to Kill, Alive, Destroyer, and Creatures than they would to the Elder. That's just my opinion. So would I buy an Elder box set? Sure, certainly. I need to have them all in sequential order on my shelf, and the words need to line up, and they all need to look the same and whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't foresee that happening.
Interesting.
My opinion.
Well, I mean, I would of course want to see a Rock and Roll Over box. I mean, it's my favorite Kiss record, period. So of course that's what I want. I know I'll be totally in the minority with this choice, but ever since, and for a long time, these records have been extremely special to me. And when Julian made the book about it, it got even more special to me. But I would love to see a box set with all the kind of, workings of and makings of and demos of the solo album stuff. Like, I'd love to have some kind of a box set based around the makings of that. I was hearing some of the early, if there's any early demos of stuff that they did, or different versions of it, just stuff that like Paul did before they went into the studio and fixed up some of the things, some of the sessions that they did with Peter, and I think that those albums to me were always so interesting and had so much, mythos and craziness behind it. I love those records, so for me, I would love to see something around that. I know it'd be probably crazy expensive, probably, because if you're talking about 4 albums in that thing, but if somehow they can make it so that you can have different, like I said, alternate takes of some of the songs over there, or different things in there, like especially Gene, who had all these special guests come in there and to do stuff. I mean, there has to be maybe some different versions of some songs and stuff like that, he even put in his credits that he brought Lassie in there. What did Lassie do? Did she bark or something in there? Is there a take with
bark or
dog barking? Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear her take.
But they get her to pants.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I'd love to know all these little things and hear all these little things. Maybe there's a track with her barking that they can solo out a little bit more, and we can hear her. Ridiculous things like that. We're Kiss fans,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ken.
Well, the obvious one is, yes, Rock and Roll Over, 50-year anniversary of that one. I agree with Mark, though. I was thinking about that solo album, but it's going to be, if they do it, it's going to be 78, probably a 50-year anniversary. So it'll be 2028 for that. I would like an Elder. I mean, I would really love an Elder box set. I think it would be fantastic. They did a lot of recording, a lot of stuff. And you have Bob Ezrin still around, who can remix things, go in there and maybe reconstruct the way he initially they really wanted to put it together versus how they, put it out. I would love, them to do, and the dialogue and all that kind of stuff that they supposedly maybe did or did not. I don't know, but if they had it, just I would want to see what it could have been, I guess. Even though I enjoy The Elder, yeah, it's an outlier. It's kind of it's a big left turn for Kiss, but I still enjoy it as an album. And I think just the Kiss Army itself, I think they would buy it. There's a lot of people that it's grown on. I always liked it from the beginning, but there's a lot of people who have grown on later. Kind of like, for me, Animalize kind of grew on me more so later. I enjoyed it a lot back when it was, but I enjoy it more now than I did back then even.
Yeah, Ken, I got to ask you something.
Yeah.
If do you think, and Julian too, or Andrew as well, do you think that there was any attempt at any footage for Elder, like it's a music from the Elder? Do you think there was any stab at actually doing any kind of filming or anything? And if so, what do you think they could make like a cartoon version of the actual thing and put it on Blu-ray?
Of the story?
That'd be a great thing.
There's a guy that has the script that
Yeah.
he won it from one of the Kiss auctions. It's never made it into fan circles. I would like to read it just to see what it was. I would actually think that it would be better as a comic book versus an animated movie, just because there's limitations in an animated movie and budgetary restrictions in an animated movie. But I thought a comic book would kind of be cool. I thought that that's maybe one of the things they should have did with the Todd McFarlane Psycho Circus books in 98, 99. That would have been cool to do something as the Elder. But that I think that would be cool. I think that would be a way to do it. But yeah, I mean, the thing, it's so polarizing. It really, really is. It really is so polarizing.
You basically already have a lot of the Elder material out there. I think it's wait for the 50th anniversary for that one. There's a lot that you don't have. Trust me, there's a lot that you've never heard about the Elder, but there's an awful, if you think of all the Just the Boy working tapes, the Escape from the Island of the Chase, the untitled instrumental on that, the rehearsals for phase 1, they put the Penny Lane demos on the Creatures box, and then the pre-Penny Lane demos as well. So there's already a shit ton out there for the Elder. I say focus on making Rock and Roll Over an absolutely spectacular 50th anniversary. That is by far, I think, the album that a lot of people pick as their favorite Kiss album. More often than not, I think it's going to win just about any poll. It beats Destroyer. Obviously the Destroyer's a great, wider popular album, but in terms of diehards, it's basically down to Love Gun, the first album, and that. So I think they do a lot more with that. I think I saw a comment that please spread out any releases throughout the year better next year. Yes, agree. I would like to see more 80s albums that fall into that cycle. I don't think there are any next year that really make any sort of sense. For 2026, there was no album in 86, 91, 96. Maybe
you
do
wanted
something
the best,
around.
you got the best. Anniversary edition.
No, maybe something. If you think of Motley Crue's Live Entertainment or Death, do something like that for the Alive Worldwide tour.
Yeah.
If they
Reunion tour.
The reunion.
You could actually put video on that one.
Yeah.
Well, no, they won't do. They won't
they,
do video.
they should. What they should do. They should do number 1. Call me. That's number 1. Number 2. After they call me, they would need to give me access to all 4 nights at the Garden, and then you could make one spectacular show. I'm not saying they were bad at the Garden, but you could make one spectacular show out of those 4 shows and make something really, really cool. And that could be your 30th anniversary reunion product. People would buy that.
Yeah, great idea.
That would actually be very cool. So again, I think the reunion, I still hope to have Magic done next year.
Dude, onward and upward, man. Onward and upward.
All right. So that's a bunch of topics on the board. We're going to leave it there this week because I don't know if we go back to Saturdays. We keep doing Thursdays. Had a ton of comments. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I think the live stream is about to kick off for the Vegas pre-party, so I'm sure a lot of people want to go and catch that. We put that in the comments earlier, so do check it out. Again, there's going to be a ton of video, a ton of content coming out of Vegas. Just because you're not there doesn't mean you can't pick and choose what you want to check out. leave a thank you to the people who share stuff, because they always like to be appreciated for making the effort to put it up on YouTube or wherever you watch videos. I will say thank you in advance to anyone who's going to record, anyone who's doing podcasts out of there. Again, I can't wait to check it out. I'm not there. I was not interested in going to Vegas, but I am interested in how it goes and that people have a good time. And hopefully we'll be able to get some folks on the show afterwards who were actually there to tell us all about it. All right. For now, from Ken, from Andrew, Mark, and myself. What? You're fucking with me.
Who's where on the screen?
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Hollywood Squares here.
Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the message board and discuss the topics we've broadcast today. Don't forget to hit subscribe wherever you've listened to this show, and a like would very much be appreciated. We hope you'll join us again, but until then, remember, life's a radio. Turn it up to 10.